welcome to the show. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
studio, Paula. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Super. I am very excited about this. I
Yes.
think that we have some super exciting topics to talk about today.
Okay, I'm curious about them. You haven't told me anything in
No,
the
it's a
beginning,
secret.
so yeah.
But before we dive into that, I thought that maybe you'd want to put a few words so everyone knows who you are
Yes.
and your background and what you're working on at the
Yeah,
moment.
sure. I'm a co-founder and CEO of a company called Interhuman AI, based here in Copenhagen, Denmark. And what we're doing, we're building social intelligence for AI applications, adding AI applications of the future, the ability to see and hear and interpret social signals, because current solutions are focused a lot on words. Like the GPT architecture is great, but it misses the context, how we say things, our body language, hand gestures, facial expressions, nods, and everything, right? That's part of the human communication. That's what we appreciate, and current solutions miss that. And what we do is add this with an API, so developers can include this as part of their tech stack. And my background, I'm a technical co-founder, so computer scientist turned business person, I guess. Turned, person doing everything, making stuff happen. That's sometimes my role that I put on Slack for my team. I make stuff happen. And I previously worked in corporate world, startups, scale up, so have experience being out there in the world, but now doing a startup with three amazing co-founders and an amazing team now since we recently raised.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So these nonverbal signals,
Mhm.
are they important for human communication?
It's super important, actually. So there's some research out there that says that 93% of human communication is nonverbal. 7% is words, 93% nonverbal. So tone of voice and body language is the rest. And imagine that. Like, I can, I don't know if you can think of any scenarios where you were just texting with someone and they just wouldn't get it. Like, that's definitely not what I meant, or situations when you're talking with a customer bot, they're awful, right? They just don't get you. It's missing completely the nuance, right, of human communication, and yeah, it's very important to have that as part of the future applications.
That's crazy. 90, was it 93%?
93%, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, the thing you said with the situations where people just don't understand you through texting, I mean, I think we've all been there.
Yes.
And even just adding voice, like a phone call,
Yeah.
is just a completely different situation.
Yes.
But okay, so these nonverbal cues,
Mhm.
I would imagine that a lot of them are visual.
Mm-hmm.
Could you
Yes.
maybe say a few words as to how that works?
Yes. So the visual cues, if you think about it, the first thing that comes to mind is facial expressions. People focus a lot on that. And our human brain is kind of programmed to detect faces everywhere. Also, where there are no faces, we kind of see, okay, two dots, a mouth, okay, it's a face. um, so facial expressions, of course, there's something into that, but there's also eye gaze. Am I looking at you? When I talk, am I looking on the side, maybe thinking, looking down, maybe I'm uncomfortable or something. Then there's head movements like nodding, feeling a bit bored, all kind of things that come. And then there's also the body language, the posture. How am I sitting? And this is also very visible when you think about how comfortable people are in social situations, but also in mental health. I've previously worked in a pharma company focused on brain health, working with patients with depression, schizophrenia, and so on. And it's very visible when people are depressed, also by body language. So the posture like this, internally, like your arms stuck like this next to the body, versus just staying like this, confident. Um, there's such a big difference, right? So a lot of these visual clues are very important when we communicate. And you've probably also seen there is a TV series, Lie to Me.
Yes. Tim Roth, right?
Yes, yeah. Did you watch some of the episodes?
I did when I was like 11, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, what did you think about it?
I thought it was very interesting. There was another one called The Mentalist,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually preferred Lie to Me, I think.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I thought it was super exciting.
yeah,
Every week there was a new mystery, and he always used the facial expressions.
yeah,
I actually thought at the time, I was wondering how much kind of science there was behind this.
yeah.
But I don't know. Can you detect lies with facial expressions?
So there is this science done by Paul Ekman. So the Lie to Me TV series is actually based on that research, where the idea is that there are a number of universal emotions that you can detect via some through facial action coding units or something like that, I think it's called. Basically looking at, eyebrows up, or you're looking down, and then you have this micro expressions, right? And everything can be coded. So there is a system for this, all these movements on your face and hand and everything. And there is some kind of agreement that these emotions are universal, and you could potentially extrapolate from that you can detect someone is lying. But also, if you are conscious about it, often you can change that. And more recently, I think there have been also other theories in terms of emotions and behaviors that kind of contradict the initial theory that these 7 emotions are actually universal. So the 7 emotions being, happy, sad, neutral, disgusted, contempt, something like that, right? Very, very general, but also very difficult. Like, I can be happy in different ways. How do you actually know? So there is some science behind it, but yeah, a bit controversial if it's 100% accurate and if everyone believes that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there's a strong cultural context as well.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
the words you just said, happy and contempt and all the other things, they usually have slightly different meanings in different
Oh yeah.
languages.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard not to kind of, put the context into the words when you use them.
Yes.
And I would imagine that makes it hard to kind of make it universal if you measure the same expressions in China and in Denmark and in the United
Absolutely.
States.
Absolutely. And it's in the facial expressions, in the voice, the head movements, everything. There are these cultural differences, even in the words themselves, right? So how do you actually translate the word hygge from Danish?
You can't.
You can't, right? Um, it's difficult. It's something specific to the culture. It's a feeling. It's something for you. It's very difficult to describe it and translate it across cultures. And there are some languages that include more words for what we say happy, right, or sad. Well, maybe you're not sad. You're just feeling down, or like there's so many things. There's also, if you search online, there are some taxonomies of these kind of feelings and emotions, and it's so cool to see that there's so much granularity in it. And but people are not expressing them. If English is their second language, they often have a difficulty actually saying that and representing it accurately.
Mm. I also the interpretation of the feelings. I mean, even if you have
Mhm.
the words and you have the granularity, for an AI to be able to use these emotions, I guess there has to be a kind of interpretation layer.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I can detect that you're happy. What does it mean that you're happy? How do I interpret that, you know?
Yeah, and what does it matter? Like,
Exactly, yeah.
how do you use that, right?
Yeah.
Even if I am 100% accurate, in based on some function, that you are happy, how am I going to use that?
Yes.
And that's where we actually also have found it really challenging when we started the research on this, because so much of the research in emotional intelligence is looking at these emotions of happy, angry, fear, disgust, and so on. And it's very difficult to detect them. The research is being challenged on whether it's universal, how do you handle cultural adaptation, and so on. What we set out to do, and this is in collaboration with my co-founder, Professor Line Clemensen from the Danish Technical University, is instead of looking at emotions, what if we look at behaviors? Behaviors is something that we can observe. So behavior could be, for example, agreement, confusion, hesitation, could even be a mix of things, and then it's emotional ambiguity. And that we found that's something that you can observe. So it's also much easier for teaching machines to actually observe. Okay, you paying attention because you're nodding, because you're continuing with certain more questions, you're interjecting, and so on. So it's a combination of things, of different modalities, so to say, from body language, tone of voice, the words, and everything. And if we look at those, we've actually done some research to see like how can we actually use those in conversational AI, for example. And it's much more useful to identify, for example, confusion or hesitation or agreement and use that in conversational AI context than happy or sad. Like if you go to, for example, a coach or therapist, and you sit there in their couch, they're asking you, how are you feeling today, Jonathan? And you're responding, you're saying something, saying I'm okay. The way that you're saying it matters a lot. And the coach or therapist, they won't say like, Jonathan, you look sad. Um, because that's very direct and it's not very useful. How would you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, I might take it. I, I probably wouldn't like it,
No?
and I might take it poorly. You know,
Yeah.
it's very on the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, a human usually wouldn't say that,
No.
right?
No.
At the same time, if I'm talking to an AI and I know it's an AI, maybe I would have a different reaction to it.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We expect different things from AIs than we do from humans.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be accepted behavior
Yeah.
from an AI.
Yeah. Would it make sense in a, for example, sales call?
So once again, if I know I'm talking to an AI and I know
Mhm.
that the purpose of the AI is to sell me something,
Mhm.
usually when you talk to a computer or a machine, you want it to be very direct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if my computer asked me how I felt instead of showing me my files,
Mhm.
that would be strange.
Yeah.
But if I met a human, cold or small talk is kind of expected.
Yes.
So there could be something there, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then again, yeah, it's hard to say. It reminded me, when you talk about behavior, it's a very kind of Skinner-esque way of looking at it.
Mhm.
Skinner from psychology. Like Freud was very much into the different levels of emotions and stuff, and
Yes.
Skinner is
Yeah.
very much on behavior.
Yes.
Do you think that this way of looking at psychology with behaviors instead of like these emotions, is that like a useful way of interpreting how people do? Like, if I'm in a situation where I'm talking to the computer and it's asking me how I'm feeling, and it can tell that I'm sad, my AI therapist, for example, is my behavior enough to like to do what the therapist should do to treat my depression? Or do we need to have a model of emotions, kind of like Freud thought?
I think it's a combination of things in the end, because there's some usefulness in all the signals. And if you have such a complex task as helping you not feel depressed, then you have to go at different layers, I think. Um, so if we come back a bit at my example of how a coach would ask you and how they would react and so on, it's often more useful for coaches, at least that's what I experienced, and learned from others. It's much more useful to instead ask a question like, is there something more to what you're saying when you're expressing something? Yeah, I'm happy, you know. Is there something more to that?
Hmm.
Because then you go deeper, then you can explore with both words and also behavior and the nonverbal communication, what's actually happening underneath. And connecting that with what you asked now, I think there is usefulness in looking at the complete model and picking up on signals from different aspects. Like when we do our solution, when we look at combining different modalities from video, audio, and text, we are looking at what signals we can pick up. And often the raw signals are something like happiness or positive, negative effect. That is a signal in itself, and it might have an influence on what we do next, right? In the AI chain of thought. But sometimes it's not that useful, and you can it's easier to combine it with, okay, you're saying you're happy, but your body posture says something different. Your eye gaze is you're looking down, and then you combine those things to come to a higher level, which is more useful for the eye to say, to ask you, is there something more to that? Or ask you more in-depth questions, like if you're in other situations, if we go away from the coaching part, it's feeling some kind of hesitation, you're showing some hesitation, not saying much, you're like just nodding but really not present, then for the AI to respond properly, to pick that up, then it needs to recognize both verbal and nonverbal communication and come up with a better solution than it would normally say, like the predefined answer to continue the script. Rather, you can say like, does this make sense to you? Actually, here's an example of what we've done in the past. So to actually address that hesitation or confusion by providing more details, by asking more in-depth questions before proceeding with the rest of the script.
I mean, do coaches use scripts or therapists in some sense?
They do have some checklists for what to look at. There is kind of a program on, okay, what it starts with what areas in life you would like to work on, right? Identifying that, and then going into deeper why. Like it depends on the type of coaching you do. Type of coaching and therapy, right? There are many types of therapies, and some look more at emotions, behavior, some look more at changing the thinking patterns, some look more in the past, some only in the future, not looking at all at what happened, but like setting you up for the future. There are different ones and there are different methodologies, and it's actually quite like structured in a way. And what makes coaches and therapists really good is the ability to bring that in the room with the patient or the client that they see, like their approach of delivering things and having a connection.
Do you think, and I mean, with this script in mind,
Mhm.
do you think an AI could be a good coach or therapist?
It can, hmm, I think it can be a support for now. I wouldn't use the coach by itself without the support of some other human, at least not now. I think it's such a cool way of discovering coaching. If you've never gone to a coach or therapist or so on, it's a way of exploring things in a safe environment, because there's no human to say like to challenge you, right? In a way, it's very safe. You can say whatever you want, and you're not gonna be annoyed by it. And if you're annoyed over technology, over an AI. It won't. It's okay. It won't come after you, right? Um, but I think it's more useful these days. If you really want to make a change in your life, to actually include a human coach as well, because they can direct you. And I met a lot of coaches that integrate AI in their practice, because one of the things the AI solutions nowadays can do is ask a lot of questions, right? And that's really good for self-discovery. So then when you actually go in that session with a human coach, you are better prepared. So I would say it's an amazing supplement in between therapy coaching sessions to actually practice things for yourself and discover yourself, so you have better sessions with a human coach.
So it's like a compliment.
It's a compliment, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I see it now. And of course, I've seen online people that just use it by itself, and I think it's still a bit dangerous. It depends what solution you use and who you are, of course, and like, sure, with access to technology for everyone, there are good things and bad things, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it made me think of when you said that you're maybe not as scared to tell the AI things as you would be a
Hmm.
human. I mean, I guess there is a fundamental difference between a human therapist and
Hmm.
an AI therapist. Because, I mean, you might be scared to say things to a human therapist. At the same time, you know that a human therapist can experience emotions like empathy, for example.
Yeah.
All this kind of Skinner-esque
Mm.
predicting behavior stuff, it
Hmm.
feels very cold.
Hmm.
And if I'm sitting there talking to an AI therapist, I know that everything that it says is just saying it to kind of affect my behavior.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, I mean, let's say an understanding of my emotions or emotions of its own.
Mm.
It's very much just a machine kind of trying to push me in different things.
Yeah, and it's I don't like it when, for example, I don't like it when, for example, ChatGPT comes and says, "Oh, Paula, that's a great idea. Let's do that." It's like, yeah, that's so fake.
Uh, Claude says you're absolutely right for the 5th time today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Claude.
We must be like genius, right?
Yeah, exactly.
um, it's fake, and we've also seen in our user testing with our application, because we're able to interpret these things. If the AI is trying to respond in a very empathic way all the time, yeah, people don't like it. They find it fake. They find the entire experience super annoying. Like, I don't want to become friends with this thing, right? It doesn't really have any feelings. And so it's super important for the developers of such solutions to take this into consideration, that they're not making the machine pretend to do things. I mean, there's a way in which you can say things and develop solutions that don't pretend to have emotions and behaviors, but still be supportive for you, right? And I think that's where we should go. I'm also seeing some of the regulations for AI going in this space, ensuring like, oh, hey, tell people that this is an AI, it's not a human being, and remind them and so on, because we've seen also these extreme cases where people get attached to their AI, believing it's like a real friend, and yeah, that's dangerous.
Mm. So, do you think that's going to be a problem in the future? I mean, people talk of AI not just friends, but girlfriends or
Yes,
boyfriends.
yeah, apparently there is a huge market for that. I think we 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 will have problems with that, but in the same way we have problems with any kind of technology, and like, for example, all our most of our data now, our money and what we've done in work and everything is digitalized. That's also a risk, right? There are a lot of risks in this life. Food, sugar in food. There's also like, oh, am I worried that people are gonna keep getting fat by eating a lot of fast food? Yeah, I mean, it's there. Some people will, some people won't, and we need to have some kind of balance of education and then also regulation on telling, yeah, what you can do, what you can't do, right? And I think it will be the same here. I think especially the education part is super important, because regulation, we can do that, but also if it's coming from politicians or different systems, people lose trust, kind of, um, in the society that we live in, unfortunately. Um, and in the future, I think everyone will think like, oh, is this fake news, or what can I trust? So I'm a bit doubtful about that part, how useful the regulation will be. However, I think the education part is super important. So making people understand how the technology works on the basics, right? When you talk with an AI nowadays, everyone associates with a large language model like ChatGPT, right? That's not the entire AI field, as we both know, but that's what people think about. Well, how does it actually work? Like on a very basic level, explaining to people that, and everyone has that education, and then ensuring that the skills that we teach in our educational system and beyond are focused more on curiosity, asking the right questions, and continuous learning. So it's more about critical thinking rather than, okay, memorizing some things, or trusting what the political system says, or being on the complete other side that I don't trust anything, everything is fake news, right? So I think this critical thinking part is super important for the next generation, so we don't go all into like being having our AI relationships only.
But do you think education is enough? I mean, I think we all know that sugar in food is bad.
Yeah.
We've all been educated on this.
Yeah.
But people still, eat too much sugar.
Yeah.
People still smoke.
Yeah.
People still scroll social media probably a bit more than they should.
Yeah.
It's I mean it's definitely a difficult question, but even with education, I mean it's going to be hard to navigate the future, I think.
Education and re-education, like education, I don't mean only, in the educational system until you're a teenager and go to university or something like that. I mean like all the time, in the communities that you're in, learning about the latest science on this or that, reading, being curious, asking for the tough questions and all of that. So it's more continuous learning, if it makes sense. What do you think about the regulations?
I think you need a combination. I think that regulation will probably play a bigger role in the future with increasing, or like as technology gets better and better,
Mhm.
we have kind of more power to affect our environment and the people in society and all these sorts of things. And the interests in our society, I mean, there are a lot of strong interests in making a profit, right?
Yeah.
And with better technology, we have way more ways of doing that. So I think that, I mean, the way I see it, regulation is kind of the only thing
Mm.
that can keep a damper on that, so that we don't just run amok with, our interest in profits. With that in mind, I mean, the technology you guys are developing
Mhm.
is super interesting,
Mhm.
but all technology comes with risk.
Yes.
As you see it, what is the biggest risk with the technology you're developing?
Yeah, because our technology is very much based on data. It's about the quality of the data, potential bias in about our data and models. So that's very important to us that we get it right. Um, and then on the usage of the technology as well. Because what we're doing with this kind of giving social intelligence to AI, it has many use cases, right? It can help people better understand themselves and each other. It can help people communicate better, can help people become better salespeople, better presenters, try to fix their relationships, maybe both at work and personal. Um, they can have a more personalized experience with an AI tutor, um, but it can also be applied in some scenarios where maybe I'm not so much of a fan of, like this kind of lying detector scenarios.
Are you not a fan of the lie detector?
No, I'm not. I, I I don't see the real purpose for it.
Mm-hmm. Police
Um,
could use it to catch criminals.
yeah, but if the technology is not accurate enough
Mm-hmm.
for specifically detecting lies, then I'm doubtful. And I mean, there's a huge risk, right? Comparing the risk in identifying a criminal versus identifying some potential signals of hesitation in a sales call.
Mm-hmm.
The risk
Mm-hmm.
is much higher
Mm-hmm.
when you go
That's
into
true.
those military cases. There's also high risk when you think about healthcare applications, because if you're using some of the data points that you're capturing through these technologies to make decisions about diagnosis and treatment, that can change people's lives, right? So that's also a high risk category. Um, yeah, I think I don't know. I don't like the military and defense area for
Okay,
some reason.
so
I'm like a peaceful human. I want to make good impact in the world, and I don't think fighting is the right way.
no, no. So on the question of risk, obviously we talked about if there's a risk that it makes a mistake. Let's say it works 100% as it should, and
Mhm,
it can 100% detect
mhm,
the lies, that people say.
mhm.
Would that be a good thing for law enforcement, do you think? Like, the police always knows if you're telling the truth, or always knows if you're lying.
Um, yeah, I mean, depends on the situation. If you are put into the situation where they are observing you because of something, yeah, yes. What I'm against is that they put the monitoring in my own home. Because that's about the privacy, right? And I might, parents might lie sometimes to their kids about something to make them do things, right? So will the police come after me for that? So it depends on the use case.
Yeah, and I think that for the privacy stuff,
Hmm.
now we're touching on not just use, but misuse of the
Yeah.
technology. Do you have any other ideas of how you could misuse the technology you're developing?
I think it's on the misuse is as I see it in the relationships market. I mean, we touched upon this a bit, but trying to manipulate people by knowing more about them, um, and transforming it into some kind of, finding an algorithm that works like social media works now, that you're optimizing for engagement and how much time you spend on the platform. And that, yeah, I see a risk that potentially this kind of technology would be used for that, and I don't like it. so and it's very difficult as developer of the technology to know how it will be used, right? But it's, yeah, we're trying our best to support our customers in analyzing the use cases where do they want to use the technology, and then helping them navigate also the regulatory path. So in EU, with the EU AI Act, what does that mean for them, for their use case, and so on. So we hope that through that we're able to somehow control how our technology is being used, and implement some monitoring systems, so we can see like what kind of domains it's applied in, so we can flag any potential issues.
What are the biggest use cases right now?
It's in learning, I would say, learning, sales training, especially in sales training. It's we're seeing a lot of companies developing sales assistance, sales training tools where you can practice via role plays. Have you
Okay.
seen those?
No?
No? There's Hyperbound in US. You can practice on a potential customer profile, and you get feedback on how well you did in selling your product, how well you did in handling objections, and so on. There are quite a few platforms all around the world that are doing this, but they're quite limited in terms of the feedback they provide. Currently, it's all word based, so it's like, oh, it's mostly domain knowledge. Yeah, okay, you said this in your, when you had an objection from the client, you did say it. You did use maybe a bit too many filler words, and maybe you were a bit slow compared to the energy of your customer. And this is the feedback. And it's great. It's a great start for sales reps, right? Like when you're a new sales rep, you need to understand the product, the customer, how do you get onboarded, especially in a bigger company where maybe there are 100 sales reps that are onboarded at the same time, right? Huge problem. And it's going to be very costly training everyone. And we are actually solving some of the issues when it comes to reducing this cost for onboarding by integrating this nonverbal signals in the analysis. So it's then not only what you're saying, but how you're saying things. And we can give signals on hesitation, confidence, attention, concentration, emotional ambiguity, all these things that are also important as part of the sales process. And coming back to the culture, very important how you do it across cultures. Selling in US versus selling in Germany versus selling in Japan, very different. Very different energy levels, words per minute. Very different on agreement, like am I smiling or not, and so on, and decision making, and all of that. So that's one of the use cases, sales training, and I see that as part of a bigger category of learning, like learning how to do things, improve on your skills, learn new skills, and especially when it comes to skills that are very useful in human AI interaction or human to human interaction. So that means that another use case that we have is for training new leaders, new managers on how to better communicate with their team.
Okay. What are you maximizing for there? So for the sales training, I imagine you're maximizing for sales.
Yes, that's easier to
Yeah,
measure.
how do you measure a good leader? What's the metric you're maximizing for?
That's a very difficult one. Sometimes some companies only have checklists that they need to do a workshop, and that's our training, you know? It's not that connected to the financial outcomes. However, you will be able to see the outcomes over a longer period of time. And the use cases that are easier to measure are those where there are teams. So HR departments identify some teams that have some communication problems, and then you introduce a solution to support them with that. And then you see, okay, employee satisfaction after 1 year is actually much better.
Okay. But I mean, a lot of things impact employee satisfaction. It's hard to
Yes,
control for
it
everything, I
is.
would imagine.
It is. It's a much more difficult area. There are some other metrics that you can use, for example, that are less sexy, I would say. It's like, yeah, you completion rate in learning platforms. like, you know, the boring compliance training that you have to go through and so on. People need to do that. People need to do like this cyber attack training, social engineering training, and all of that. Well, you can practice some of these, make it a bit more engaging, and then potentially you see people completing the learning.
Yeah, but I guess, I mean, completing it doesn't mean that you learn anything though on the flip side.
No,
Because you could
no.
just make it a game where you don't learn anything, but it's more fun,
Yes.
and you would have
Yeah.
more engagement probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So there are different things you can optimize for, and it's a bit more difficult case than sales training, I would say, because there's also so many different stakeholders, right? What does HR want? What does the manager want? Yeah, the organization in itself, it's the costs, is prevention of attacks, it's improved employee satisfaction. There are just so many things there that are also affected by all other variables.
Mm.
Another case that we have is also in digital health. So that's closer to kind of the coaching examples that I mentioned earlier. And there we have a project where we are helping parents of children with mental health and behavioral issues communicate better with their kids via role plays where they get feedback on nonverbal communication. So
So the AI role plays as the child,
yes,
and the parents participate in the role playing to learn
yes,
how to communicate with their children.
yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so we have role plays like, oh, Oscar doesn't want to go to school today. How are you gonna handle that? And then you get an avatar with a screaming child that says, I don't want to go to school today. Ah!
Okay. So I thought about this before when we were talking about the kind of Skinner view of
Mm.
emotion here. It reminds me of the weather. Hear me out on this.
Okay.
So the weather is a very complex thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can model weather to some degree. If you know a storm is going over the sea, it's probably going to hit land somewhere. But it's very hard to predict exactly how it's going to kind of play out in the long run.
Yeah.
Because it's a chaotic system, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I would imagine that emotions are kind of similar to this. Like it's the further out in time you go, it's very hard to say, is this hurricane going to hit Florida or New York?
Yeah.
Even the tiniest things can kind of change the course, over the long run. Would it be a risk to kind of train people for stuff like this? Because if you model behavior just, a smidge off, you're actually training for the wrong thing. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
So you're
What I'm saying is that, for example, if you do something to your child is kind of like the hurricane here, right?
Okay,
So
got it.
if you just do a tiny thing different, the hurricane is no longer going to hit Florida, it's going to hit New York. And it's very hard to model this because there's so many tiny factors. The flapping of a butterfly in Japan could somehow cause a storm in Africa, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, it's hard to train for this, if that makes sense.
You can't train for infinite number of scenarios. You can train for some scenarios and then let your mind do the rest of the pattern matching. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. So broad strokes. If the hurricane hits Florida, we do one thing. If it hits New York, we do another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, thinking of this, would you agree that, is it very simple, the behaviorism, and, the AI can understand our emotions through our behavior, or is there kind of another level, a kind of Freudian level to our emotions? Do you think the AI can ever understand us fully that way?
There's so many levels. So no, I don't think that I think we're very complex human beings, and there are so many levels of, emotions, feelings, behavior, thinking, personality, culture, so many things, so many levels. So it's like not easy. And I actually had an interesting chat about this with with someone that works in HR and communication at an investment company. And I don't know if it was the beer, if it was the alcohol, but we started debating. Like, she was saying that, oh, humans are so simple. It's like, what? And as we went further in our discussion, I realized like what she meant is there are a few frameworks you can use to communicate with people that puts people in 4 boxes or something, and you get them to have like you get to the right outcome. That's completely different than what I had in mind when I said like people are very complex, right? Because obviously there's science of like how you can target most people that maybe have this kind of personality and maybe put more attentions to feelings rather than logic and all of that. But it's very different than trying to understand our human brain, our body, and everything. So, yeah, no. And I don't think there is any AI solution that 100% can capture that. Not at the moment. So, we are on the journey of learning about humans and hopefully, also teach machines something about that. And hopefully, it's like a flywheel. The more we learn, the more we learn about what we don't know, and then we learn some more, and maybe we help humans to understand themselves better as well through this process.
If we roll the clock forward 5 years, how do you see this technology being used in society?
I think it's gonna support so many of the interactions we have with technology, and currently it's a lot of talk about AI and agents and LLMs. Maybe we start talking with them by voice, maybe some avatars. I think in the future we will also have physical AI, so we'll have robots. And whether that is in 5 or 10 years, I don't know. But I think we will get to that part at some point. And there, I think it's super important that those kind of technologies, the robots, actually understand us as humans and know how to interact with us in the space and in our world.
Do you think we will become over-reliant? I mean, if understanding humans is one of the few things today that we do better than anyone else. Do you think we would become over-reliant on it, maybe?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. Do you think we're over-reliant on the internet?
I mean, I would say so to a degree, yeah. If
Yeah?
you take a teenager today
Yeah.
and you lock them in the room without internet, or just put them out in the countryside and tell them to entertain themselves,
Yeah.
don't you think that would be a difficult experience for them?
I think they will adapt.
Okay.
I think it will be a difficult experience for some time. They will cry, cry, cry. And then they will start exploring. They're going to be hungry. They're going to look. And I mean, we adapt so fast as human beings. It's incredible how fast we adapt when we're put in difficult situations. So I'm optimistic about the human race, that we are actually moving forward whatever comes to us.
Okay, nice. Paula, you're also running a podcast, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
About mental health.
Yes.
Have you learned anything about mental health from the podcast? It's for founders, right?
Yes, the focus is on founders' mental health, and particularly inviting founders that were kind of in the healthcare space, mental health, coaching, therapy. And the idea was to ask them what they know, because it feels like they should walk the talk. Like they have all the knowledge they need in order to do the right thing. And then my main question is, do you actually walk the talk? Do you do what you preach? And I find the sessions and the podcast that we do very insightful in terms of what practices people have in mind that they should do and what do they do. I often find it challenging. I often see them a bit challenged by my question of, do you walk the talk? Like, do you actually do these things? So they often say, sorry, like, like, yeah, I know I should do more of this, but yes. Um, but I did find also had some guests that they were like all in on ensuring their mental health. They're taking care of it, and a lot of good practices. Some of the common things, I don't think they come as any surprise to anyone, but it's super important to reiterate because even though we know about them, it's like we need to put them in practice. One of the basic things, take care of your sleep. Sleep is super important. Um, Getting enough sleep, getting consistent sleep, and getting quality sleep, super important so you can perform for the rest of the day. So also for myself, I'm protecting that time. Super important for me. Then it's what you eat, how you eat, when, and so on. That also influences a lot. And of course, what you drink, like the impact of alcohol on sleep and so on. Um, and I found that these two, the founders that I interviewed, these are the core things that they're thinking about. That and physical exercise. So they find different ways in which they can do that, because it's like you can think of, oh, just running a marathon or running every morning, but that differs based on the founder. So some do running, some cycling, some weights, some um include of course some meditation in, but it's like sauna. You combine different things, right? And you need to find that path that works for you. It's not just one, okay, you go to the gym, that's prescribed for everyone. You need to find your path so you can also enjoy it and find it rewarding, and that it mixes in right with your founder lifestyle. And then there are smaller tricks on how to think about things, like what do you value as a founder? What do you prioritize when you make decisions? How you work with others? How much priority do you put to your friends and family when you're a founder and time is limited? All of these things. And that I found that those kind of values and cognitive systems are somehow connected to the kind of company that they're building, which is really interesting. So they are, as founders, kind of the embodiment of how the company should be run, what the company is about. And I found it like very, very interesting to go at that level as
Yeah, that
well.
is super interesting.
Yes.
Would you say that most founders walk the talk? I mean, do they practice what they preach when it comes to mental health and everything?
I think I got the bias sample because they came on my
Ah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if I go randomly to a network event and ask
Yes.
people,
Yes.
I think it will be a bit different.
There's some selection bias there,
There's
probably.
a selection bias, I would say.
What about more generally? I mean, a lot of people are founding companies today,
Mhm.
not just AI companies, but all sorts of companies.
Yes.
You are running a company for the last couple of years.
Yes.
If you had to say one thing, one tip to give to new founders,
Mhm.
what would that be?
To have fun. Do something that you like, because it's tough. Building a company is so tough. Extremely difficult. So do something that you like and enjoy the journey. It's not, at least for me, it's not only about the outcome, the impact that will make on the world, but it's the journey itself. And one of my practices, at least, is that every morning, as I go to work, I try to remind myself to be grateful of where I am today, what we've achieved, and isn't it effing amazing that I get to do this? That's the kind of feeling that I hope more founders would have. Um, it's not all the time, right? I find founders that are just tired and complaining about things, and I'm like, what like why are you doing this? I don't say that, but that's what I'm thinking. Like you need to change something.
Gratitude.
Gratitude, either you change something in yourself or outside, but you need to change something. You change your mindset, or you change what you're working on, who you have around you. There's a lot of things to do.
Mm. Paula, this mission you're on with Interhuman
Mhm.
AI, if all your dreams came true in 10 years' time,
Mhm.
what would the world look like, or how would the journey affect society?
Ooh. But I hope that what we do will impact people's lives in a good way. So people become more self-aware, more attentive, are able to communicate and connect better with other people. And obviously, there will be a lot of technology around us. And I hope that what we're doing will be included in that kind of technology in order to make the machines, the robots, everything around us really understand us and support us. And not only optimizing for efficiency and outcome of work, but rather supporting us on what we want to do, our core values.
Okay, nice. We've talked about many things today.
Yeah.
AI and Interhuman and being a CEO. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you think we should bring up?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Haven't thought about that.
No? I
No.
thought of one thing actually. It's kind of funny. Have you seen the movie Blade Runner?
Yes. Yeah.
You know the machine they have in the movie that
Mm-hmm.
detects if you're a robot or a human?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that maybe, I mean, the technology you are working on is kind of both. It's kind of both a robot that's acting like a human, but also the lie detector that's
Oh, I
detecting if
like
you are the human.
it.
So
I like
yeah, I just
it.
thought that was
I
an
like
interesting
it.
observation.
That's a very good observation.
Oh. If people want to follow you or the work you do,
Mhm.
where should they go?
They should check LinkedIn for Paula Petcu, and they connect with me, and they can also check out my podcast, Founders Mental Health, if they're interested in that topic, and the website interhuman.ai.
Okay, we'll put links in the description.
Thank you.
Should we bring this one home?
Yes.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, very nice.
Super.
Okay.
Loved it.